public service announcement. We will now present to you today le détournement des rues, aka the street hijacking. Keep your eyes peeled for the following roles. First, the franchised, those given a privilege of a public nature granted by the second role, the franchisor. And finally, the disenfranchised, those who are deprived of a franchise or privilege. This project seeks to map and speculate upon the systems of the city and their limits by franchising the disenfranchised. How can we go from the domain of our homes to seizing the domain of the streets? Can one be disenfranchised and housed? Could spaces be franchised and vacant? The latter leads us to protest. The luminescence of a small black box brings news of injustice. These virtual networks guide and connect the housed, by bike, subway, or foot, to spaces where counterparts are fighting civil injustices. One of these networks, Mic Check Collective, distributes sound equipment throughout the city, powering the amplification of voices and the eroding of streets. What can these disenfranchised erasures expose from the franchisor's mappings? Can the protesters be the franchisors of erasure? Where is the intersect? The locomotive facilitator of New York is not only shipping protesters, but facilitating the transience of the homeless. Complaints of invasion are on the rise as the housed get out and the homeless move in. How could zones of erasure mitigate the unspoken blasé between the homeless despair and the franchised leisure? Where have the homeless been going under COVID? Here we have the 59 community districts of New York City. Let's break it down by borough. By mapping the sum of homeless shelters and hotels serving a district from April 2019 to June 2020, we are able to visualize the transformation from hotel to shelter. Red squares signify the change from hotel to homeless shelter, and vice versa. On the right, we see District 111 had seen a decrease of 7 shelters, none of which being hotels. District 105 saw an increase of 12 shelters, making 91% of these shelters actually luxury hotels. When shelters become insufficient in the time of COVID, the homeless of New York City are bussed from shelters to luxury hotels. Amongst those, the Lucerne Hotel in the Upper West Side and 3 hotels in Midtown are showing an influx of homeless residents. One is transported from hotel to hotel with nowhere else to go, perpetually transient on the tracks of the city's infrastructure, while these tracks of the transient aren't mapped or franchised. We can imagine the counterparts to their subterranean world placed on the surface. On the left, a cropping of the Brooks slave ship document, originally measuring the humane amount of slaves to be put on a ship. This was almost always over-tallied. The right showing the same measurement of our transient on the subway system. The stratification of franchised and disenfranchised discovers an unmapped, disturbing subterranean world. The mechanical tectonics of the subway suggests a subterranean automation of this disenfranchised transportation with tubes that intersect the subterranean levels of the hotel. These mechanisms emerge as a beacon or a snare, similar to that of the sirens of Odysseus. These hotels serve as a lure for voyaging homeless sent to a subterranean transient doom. What if the true nature of this transport were measured and exposed along its tracks? The domesticity of a bed juxtaposed with the infrastructure of the train depicts the unhoused condition. These beds, bunkered within the depths of the hotels throughout the city, leave the disenfranchised invisible. How could this invisible subject of the franchisor become visible, become franchised? Community fridges, a growing acknowledgement of the disenfranchised condition, have been popping up as their own beacons, serving as an oasis to many food deserts throughout the city. In ways protest is reclaiming spaces for the disenfranchised, so are these fridges. We erase the boundaries set out by the franchisor by propelling these fridges into contentious domains. By nature of a municipality's infrastructural systems, this disenfranchised architecture weaves in and out of franchised spaces. These growing edges of inversion are a testament to a franchised membrane becoming porous and more erased. The franchisement of the disenfranchised, that of which we return with tools of erasure and role reversal. While both protesters and the homeless are subject to the franchisor, the protesters are becoming the franchisors of the erased city. The system observed by the franchisor. The infrastructure needed to accommodate the movement is quick to deploy and difficult to participate in. Those vulnerable participate in the system in which demarcated luxury hotels facilitate the to and from of individuals. As the helpless get further underground, the more expedient their next departure may be. The system observed by the transient. A reflected ground plan shows the system as a projection. The wood is appropriated to convey the eroding landscape from the underside of the Luzerne. The intersect permits emerging typologies. The erosion of old fascia exposes infrastructure as subverted peoples, the homeless and the protesters, clad them in their image. The intersections and erasures help to reveal interactions and spaces that are for the taking amongst those franchised and disenfranchised. These spaces hijack the city's infrastructure to embed itself into the fabric. The core of the Luzerne Hotel projects down and multiplies, perpetuating the intersection of tubes. The Hijacking of Soho on Broadway and Broome. The fascia of the landmark and boutique stores of Soho is eroded and reversed with fascia belonging to those of the disenfranchised. These participants emerge within the city, layering it with a new fabric, recontextualizing the street. This constant reinvention and contention is emblematic of the city's undying character. This is Ada Murtha, signing off. This message has been brought by Dario Lavan, Mahdi Al-Kaifi, Mohammed Gay, and Sonam Sherpa. Thank you for watching and taking this ride.